Hi, welcome to the podcast called Chat Club. There's only one rule in Chat Club that is everybody talks about Chat Club. This is my second episode. If you were here for the first episode, I appreciate you listening. I had a lot of, it was a lot about myself and my biography and how I dealt with anxiety and stuff and mental health issues. I'm your host, Alan Hilchey, and today's we're going to focus on anxiety and the symptoms and how to deal with this and maybe recognize it, and so it's not so, typically frustrating, angry, and a lot of different emotions that tie around this with anxiety. I know how you recognize anxiety has a lot to do with physical symptoms. You ask myself, you always ask yourself, what happens when I'm anxious? Where do I feel anxious in my body? For example, there's a lot of different symptoms that we can have. You may get the butterflies in your stomach, which I talked about in my first episode about the butterflies and how it really paralyzed me. It didn't paralyze me, but I really had to step back and refocus and re-engage and a lot of different things. But I recognize that as being one of my symptoms. When you sweat a lot, breathing heavily is also one. And also you feel dizzy or lightheaded. And this is a huge one that everyone has a lot of trouble with, is sleeping. Because the biggest thing is when you hit the bed, your mind is always thinking. You're always, you're trying to wind down and get yourself, down to sleep, and your mind's always wandering and thinking and stuff. And, it's not easy. And that's where it comes up with me, is when I try to go to sleep and I can't. I do have a lot of troubles with sleeping, so I have to find some avenues. And with my podcast here, I'm looking at some possible solutions for me when I go to my doctor. It could be CBD oil. It could be maybe getting some sleep medication from my family doctor to help me with this, because I'm feeling really restless. And not only that, I'm not getting my proper sleep and therefore feel groggy, lazy, all these different things, which I don't want. I want to be healthy and I want to be energetic and I want to do stuff. So that's where I'm at. You need to recognize your anxious behaviors. Basically, you need to know that if you do go to the doctor and you try to find out physical, whether it's in the emergency response, ER, surgeon, ERT, in the hospital, or your family doctors, and they do all these tests, and you come out and they recognize there's nothing physically wrong with you. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that you have the symptoms in your body, so you're definitely not going crazy, okay? Let's get that out of your head. You're not going crazy, and you're not hypochondriac. You do have symptoms of something that's happening, which is anxiety. So some of these symptoms are very uncontrollable, and you need to find de-stressors, and you need to find ways to reduce your stress, reduce your anxiety. So, you need to find some solutions. So, when we're talking about this, the anxiety is not harmful to you. It's just a preventative mechanism that your body has to say, hey, there's something wrong with me. In your body and your brain puts out a symptom, whether it's your heart goes up, your elevation, fear, anger, whatever. Now, when I get into the symptoms, there's hundreds of symptoms. For instance, there's crying, trembling, numbness, heart palpitations, chest pain, ringing in your ears, crying. Crying is a normal response. Because you don't know what's going on. So you're very emotional. I get that. You get upset stomach, you can get diarrhea, you can feel electric shock, weakness in your legs, you can get butterflies in your stomach, you can get a tight band around your head, which could be a headache or, a symptom of that. Strong feeling of feeling of doom. You get all these different symptoms. And, they're emotional. And it's just your body reacting to say, hey, there's something wrong. We need to fix this. And there's nothing wrong with this. I just want to make it for certain that anxiety is normal. You know, there's different categories of anxiety. You know, there's social anxiety, there's, you know, PTSD, which is coming to the forefront. Like, you know, there's, you know, different disorders. You know, there's OCD, there's, you know, social anxiety, like I said before. You know, there's chronic anxiety, there's different, numerous things around anxiety. There's a huge, you know, broad view of it. Like, you know, your symptoms, like, you know, when we get into this, and, you know, I want to get back on this, you know, basically the sleeping. I know, you know, you know, you wake up in a panic attack, you feel worse in the morning, you know, you have difficulty falling asleep and then keeping asleep, because basically your head needs to calm down, and whatever is going on in your head is what needs to, you know, whether it's CBD oil or some medication. I mean, medication is not for everyone, CBD oil is not for everyone, but these are remedies that can help you endure and help you live with anxiety and help you, you know, better it, because you're a survivor. You are a survivor of this. You're not a victim. Don't let don't be a victim of anxiety. Don't let it rule you. When I get back to, you know, post-traumatic stress disorder is another one. And this seems to happen a lot with first responders, people in the military, nurses, you know, doctors that deal with traumatic incidents. Paramedics, firemen, correctional officers are starting to come out now. That's my profession, being a correctional officer. And, you know, paramedics, 911 operators. 911 operators, as everybody forgets about them. Big instrumental in our 911. And do they get enough recognition for it? Absolutely not. They have all... First responders have an absolutely hard job. And they seem to deal with a lot more anxiety, a lot more issues around that. And it's not, you know, it's not that I'm trying to center them out, and I know everybody has anxiety, but first responders they deal with a lot of anxiety. So when I go into it, there's PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, which is anxiety based, panic disorder, and I'm sure I'm missing some more, but these are the ones that I've come up with so far. And there's social phobia. And social phobia, that's a real scary one. That's when people don't want to socialize with people. They feel like people are looking at them. They are very nervous around people, big crowds. They get overwhelmed, and, you know, self-conscious in everyday life. And it's normal. It's normal mostly around younger kids. Seem to be like coming out of high school, going to university, and bang, they're hit in social situations that normally they're not around. Is it a bad thing? Absolutely not. But how to deal with it as a young teenager? Because let's be honest, the brain, the frontal lobe, does not develop for young adults until they hit into their 20s. I think 20, 21, I'm not 100% sure. But a lot of their decisions and a lot of their things happen. So it's developing as they go to university. You know, and we get into this certain thing, and there's another one, separation anxiety is another one. A lot of disorders, a lot of separation anxiety. And this is when you go to the professionals, they can help you round this down. They can help you determine what's the best course of action, you know, for yourself. And don't feel like you're the only one in the world that has anxiety, or there's millions of people that have anxiety in the world. And there's people in your place of work that, you know, that have anxiety. They just mask it much better. I'm going to tell you something. I heard this the other day, and I heard it the other day, and I said, wow, it's powerful. And it's so true. Everybody in life wears a mask, whether it's a happy one or, you know, a busy one, or they wear a mask. to others, to make others feel comfortable of them being there. Because in the end of the day, these people that have anxiety, like you and me, and I'm sure that people with anxiety are listening to my podcast right now, or there's people that have loved ones that have anxiety and they're trying to find solutions or helpful situations. A high percentage of people, I'm going to tell you right now, people that do wear masks, happy ones, or they're just, you say, oh my God, they got it together. Probably a high percentage of them don't have it together, and they're just faking it till they make it. This is the terminology that I use a lot, is fake it till you make it. It's not that you're trying to, you're trying to dupe someone or make someone, you're just fake it till you make it is a terminology that I like to use, that you're trying to make people feel that you're doing okay. Everything's good. Everything's A-okay, fake it till you make it. Wear the happy face when you're feeling depressed. There's a lot of people, and I talk to people, the more and more I talk about my podcast, the more and more I talk about certain things, and I talk about this podcast. I talk to people, and they tell me that they fake smiles. They fake every day, and they just go through the motions. And it's so sad because they feel helpless, they feel vulnerable, they feel unimportant, and they feel that they have to put this big facade on to family members or their children, or family members or co-workers, or people that they're acquaintances or friends or teammates in sports. Wow. That's so hard to do, because I've done it. And for people to actually sit there and believe it, maybe they do, maybe they don't, or maybe some people are really scared to help out people or ask if you're okay. Don't be scary, people. Ask them if they're okay, and ask them about their life. Ask them about how they're doing in reality in life, because they may break down and say, you know what, I'm having, this is what's happening. And maybe they don't, maybe they do. But it's our job as a coworker and family member to ask this. I'm telling you, because sooner or later it's going to wear on, and they're going to feel like they can't go on in life. And suicide is a prevalent thing that can happen. And gosh, no one wants that. I don't want people committing suicide because they don't feel important, or they feel they don't want to be a burden on people. It's an emotional draining time for these, for people with anxiety and depression, because anxiety equals depression. Depression is not a good thing, because you're depressed about how to deal with this anxiety, how to deal with feeling feeling vulnerable and feeling, blah, and getting up every day, going through the motions and wearing that mask. Man, that's exhausting. And when you come home at night, you can't sleep because you're worried about how the next day is going to go, and so on, and it's repetitive. So we need to be more informative of anxiety, more informative of depression. Depression is, correlated with anxiety. So we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about depression, we're talking about how people just go through the motions. And how do we prevent this? Well, recognizing it, talking about it, being supportive is such a big thing. And a lot of times, you talk about kids and, they act out bad and they always want to be heard, and they're being pestered and stuff. Well, that's natural evolution of humankind. We all want to be listened to. We all have something to say. We all have an opinion. It's like buttholes. We all have one. So we have opinions. So opinions aren't a bad thing. It's how we express them. And expression is, how do we deal with certain things when it comes to anxiety? Man, not a cool thing. But I'm just talking about the symptoms. I'm talking about, you're not alone. People are not alone in this battle. And it is a battle, because it can, the more and more you deal with it, the more and more you get depressed, the more and more, symptoms come up, and you feel horrible. And I just want people to recognize this. And, if you do have anxiety and you do have these, talk to someone. Talk to a professional. Talk to someone you trust. Talk to your friend. They're there for a reason. Maybe they're going through the same thing. Don't close yourself off. And don't, if someone shuts you down, don't take that as, they don't care. They're just scared because they might do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing. It's not anything about like what you're saying to them. Sometimes people are just scared. They're scared to do the right thing, or they're scared of anxiety. They're scared of depression because they know where that leads. They've heard a lot of stories, and when you talk about this, I mean, in reality, no one wants to talk about anxiety. No one wants to talk about depression. It's not a common occurrence. So, how do people react? I mean, people react so differently. Perception is different. Like my perception now is way different than when I first started work, because I went through the trials and tribulations of my workplace. Went through the traumatic. I went through anxiety. I went through all these different challenges, and believe me, dealing with me now compared to then, because I was very, very opinionated and said, they're a little weak, and I'm ashamed to ever think that I thought that about people, because people handle stresses and situations so differently. When situations happen in my workplace, there's always video and stuff, and I take it upon myself not to look at those. I don't want to be judgmental. I want to support the person. I want to support the person through a traumatic incident. I'm more empathetic now than I've ever been. If I'm in a situation where something happens in a code, I look at my coworker and say, "Man, you okay?" And I let them just vent. And I don't judge them. And, I can see the expression in their face. And what is most rewarding thing about everything is the sense of relief that they let this out. And the biggest thing is you need to target this quick. You can't let this drag on, because the better chance of surviving this, the better chance of learning how to deal with anxiety and depression is getting the help as soon as you recognize it. And sometimes it's a little intimidating, because you're always looking at people and saying, "Oh my God, how do I look?" Or everyone's worried about how everyone looks, or what the other person thinks, or what the Joneses think. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care what people think of my workplace, about if I went through anxiety, or if I have PTSD, or I'm having a rough day, because I'm only human, people. And humans are going to have up and down days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have great days. But the thing is, you got to remember the good days and how you coped with the good days, how you dealt with these situations. You have to learn to cope with these situations. So I mean, there's so many alternatives. There's counseling. There's I like to call it tactical breathing, which I've learned a roadmap to mental health. Is I took a course at work, and it roadmapped me to all different possibilities of way I can help myself. If there's an employee assistance program, use it, people, use it. There may be some helpful information in there. I mean, you may not believe the person that you're talking to, but if they can get you some information, make sure you go on the internet and read about anxiety or depression, or different ways to cope with it, or some coping mechanisms to help you get through the hard times. There's all kinds of peer groups out there. Like I know that there has to be some groups out there with this, whether it's in your region or look on Facebook, type in Google, find stuff that's going to help you, help things. I mean, me talking is one thing, me getting you all excited and trying to help yourself out, but you're the one that's got to take the step. You have to take the step to open up to people. It's not easy. I get that. To sit down and talk about your feelings, and maybe you're in a generation that, we didn't do that. But if you don't do this, it can mask to other things, other elements. It can lead into different things. And really, we want to help a healthy life. We want to live the best we can, because human nature is to have the best of the best. And, whether it's mental or physical or anything like that. I know myself, going to the gym, to get myself to drag there, I've got millions of excuses not to go. Sometimes you just got to get in that car and you just got to drive there. Or get a buddy and go with a buddy. Someone that has a similar issues as you, similar, anxiety, depression. Start recognizing these people and start helping. Maybe you can be that buddy today that can help that person. It's all about helping each other. Paving it forward is a big thing that I've heard a lot of, and a lot of people that are doing stuff and paving it forward, whether it's paying for someone's coffee through the coffee through drive-through, or paying for someone's meal. Karma is and I'm a firm believer in karma. I believe that if you do something good, somewhere down the road, something good's going to happen to you. Firm believer in that. How you want to get treated is how you treat others. You want to be treated good, you got to treat others well. And I'm a firm believer in that also. But really, when it comes down to it, people, when it comes to anxiety, you have to find coping mechanisms. And, the mechanisms are different things, and you need to expand your horizons. You need to think outside the box, because sometimes things aren't going to work. There's yoga. Yoga is a wonderful stress de-stressor. I had a gentleman at work, a coworker, that started doing that, and he absolutely loves it and helps him with the stress. And I said, go do it. Great. It's good for you, because it's helping him. Different things, like there's the gym. Everyone swears by the gym. It's good. Taking your dog out for a walk is also good for you and good for your pet. Having your pet, talking to your pet. Go talk to your pet. Tell them how you feel. What's wrong with it? The pet's not going to talk back. It's going to listen to you. Probably lick you. But at the end of the day, you got someone that's going to listen. Try your little things out. Try some experiments. Talk to people. Talk to groups. Reach out. Because the only one that's going to solve this problem is you. Getting the help you need. Because when it really comes down to everything, the focus is on you. What do you need done? I can sit here and preach about it. Not preaching, I'm talking about it. But when it really, the pinnacle point of your life, and you need help, what example are you setting for others? Be a leader. Be the one that's going to take the bull by the horns. Because if you're the one in your workplace or your home life that takes control of this anxiety or depression, then you may get others out there, and you might be the leader of it. And maybe you'll share your story like I'm doing right now and trying to help people. Be a leader. It's therapeutic. It's helping me by doing the podcast, trying to reach out to people on a daily, weekly basis, or however I'm going to do how many podcasts. I'm going to try to do one a week or two a week or whatever. What really comes down to it is it's therapy for me to talk to people. So maybe someday you'll share your story, or maybe I'll call you and Skype you in. Hey, I remember that time you said something. So let's take our masks off. Let's show our true emotions. Let's figure this out together. Let's go and let's explore other options. Let's explore things that are going to make our lives better. Take a chance. When we drop into the car for the first time, when we drive, we don't know what's going to happen. We know we're driving. We know there's going to be red lights and green lights. We don't know if someone's going to drive good or bad, but we're taking a chance when we walk out the door every day. We're taking a chance on our health, mentally and physically. So, take the chance, take the opportunity and help yourself. And I really, really think that we should to invest in ourselves, invest in our lives. Because what's the best investment in our life is ourselves. Our mental health is our best. Anxiety, go away. Let's get it out of here. Let's manage it. It's never going to go away. You're going to have moments where it happens. But you can decrease your stress and know your stressors. And when you know them, you can attack them. And, whether it's different things that help you out in life. Well, I'm looking at it in the future of doing CBD oil. And it's the stuff without THC. And I'm looking at it as maybe it'll help me with my anxiety. And, help with other things. Help with my sleep. Make me feel better about myself. Not that it's going to make me feel better than myself, but it might aid in making better decisions. So I'm still working on a lot of issues. Do I still go to work happy? Absolutely. I try to go to work happy. Even work some overtime. Wow, imagine that. But really, folks, when it really comes down to your health and your symptoms, recognize them, take care of them, see a professional, talk to a friend, talk to your wife, your spouse, talk about your feelings, talk about how you feel vulnerable and it feels helpless and you fear it. Everybody fears something in life. So thank you very much for exploring with me today, understanding symptoms, understanding your vulnerabilities, but finding a way to do it, and I really appreciate it. I'm Alan Hilchey. Thank you for listening to Chat Club. Until next time, talk to you later.